In today's video, I'm going to show you how to get Sega Saturn set up and running in the Xbox Series X version of Retroarch. Sega Saturn emulation has finally hit a point where it is a very viable option for people who want to experience these wonderful games on their hardware of choice. Unfortunately, Sega Saturn emulation has always been very demanding on CPU power, so a lot of devices still haven't been able to run it, but thanks to the upgraded processing power that's in the Xbox Series X and S, it can run on this system very well. So in this video, I'm going to walk you through BIOS setup, getting games on a USB drive, setting up a playlist, and running your games, as well as additional core options and shaders. This guide is a continuation of my Xbox Series X Retroarch installation video, so there are some options I have enabled from that video that aren't going to be covered in this video, so refer back to that one if you need to see what those are. So let's dig in. The first step to getting Sega Saturn up and running on your Xbox Series X or S is to source a Sega Saturn BIOS file. I happen to have a tutorial on the channel that will show you how to dump one from your own Sega Saturn, or you could look on Google or other shady places and try to find one. I will not be providing download links, as that is considered to be illegal, and I don't want to risk my channel for it, so sorry, not sorry. Anyways, once you source a Sega Saturn BIOS file, you need to rename it mpr-17933.bin for US and European games. Once you have that BIOS file, you need to go back over to your Xbox One, and on the dev menu, you will have your web address to access the dev portal. Opening up a web browser, we could type in our Xbox device portal web address, and then it'll ask you for a username and password if you had those set up. Once you have your Xbox device portal opened, we're going to go to the left panel here and click on File Explorer, Local App Data, Retroarch, Local State, and scroll down to the System folder. Now scroll down and click on this Choose File button here and browse to where you have your Sega Saturn BIOS file. Select it and click Upload. Bam! Sega Saturn BIOS file now uploaded to the Xbox. Next, you'll need some Sega Saturn games. If you're interested in backing up your own personal collection of Sega Saturn games, I have a video showing how to do that, so check that out. Otherwise, you will need to, again, refer to Google or other shady places that I won't talk about. Again, no download links for games will be provided, as that is considered illegal. Anyways, once you have your Sega Saturn games that you want to put onto your system, go ahead and copy them over to a fast USB drive, either an external SSD or a fast USB thumb drive. Mechanical hard drives have given issues due to the UWP version of Retroarch having very slow USB interface, so the extra speed is a big help. Once you have your Sega Saturn games on your USB thumb drive, you are free to insert it into your Xbox Series X or S. It shouldn't matter which USB port you insert your USB device in. I've had success on all three, but I think the back ports are technically preferred. Once your flash drive is inserted, the Xbox should detect it automatically. If this is the first time you've inserted a flash drive into the Xbox, it'll ask if you want to format it for Xbox storage or as media storage. Select media storage. But once you have that flash drive inserted, we are free to launch into Retroarch. From here, we're free to start loading up Sega Saturn games. You could go into the Load Content menu, go down to the E drive, select your Sega Saturn games, and load them up in Beetle Saturn. But I don't like that method. So instead, press left on your D-pad until you get to the Import Content tab. Now scroll down to Manual Scan, Content Directory, go down to E, select your Sega Saturn game folder, scan this directory. System name, press right on your D-pad till you get to the Sega section, and define Sega Saturn. Default core, scroll down with the right on your D-pad again till you hit Sega, and then we're going to Sega, Saturn, Beetle, Saturn. Now make sure Scan Recursively is selected so it will search within subfolders, and once you are ready, go ahead and start the scan. Once that's completed, press B to back out, and there will be a nice little Sega Saturn Model 2 controller icon over to the right. And every Sega Saturn game you had in that folder should show up here. Now all you need to do to play games is select the game you want to play, press A, press run. Dude, the Sega Saturn boot up sound is so cool.
Ready!
As you can see, it is running like an absolute dream in both 2D and 3D games. Now, to be fair, I haven't tested everything, including some of the more demanding Saturn games, but honestly I have no concerns that the Xbox Series X and S processor can handle them. So if you just wanted to get Sega Saturn games up and running on your Xbox Series X and S, that is really all you need to know. From this point in the video on, I'm just going to be covering optional core settings, so if you would like to see some extra setup features, stick around. So, to access the core settings, you need to go to your quick menu. I had quick menu assigned to my start and select button, as outlined in my initial Xbox Series X Retroarch installation video. Once the quick menu is open, scroll down to options. So, starting from the top, you can select your system region. It's on auto detect by default, which is honestly where you can just leave it 99.9% of the time, but if you have a game that just won't run unless you select the specific region, you can do that here. Next is the cartridge slots, so you can tell it if you have any of those extended RAM cartridges needed for games like X-Men vs. Street Fighter or something like that, King of Fighters. For a vast majority of Saturn games, I just leave mine on the backup memory. Next, you have 6-player adapters on port 1 and 2. This is if you want to play games like Bomberman. Next, you could change the analog stick dead zone if you are trying to emulate a Saturn 3D controller. So I'm going to press B to go back out to the quick menu here. And if I go down to Options, Port 1 Controls, I could change which type of controller is plugged into my Sega Saturn. Regular controller or 3D controller. And also things like the Arcade Racer, Mission Stick, Mouse, Stunner, Twin Stick, Virtual Gun, Dual Mission Sticks, or just back to the control pad. Every Saturn game is designed to work with the control pad. You'll have a couple that can take advantage of a 3D control pad. And if you have games that can make use of some of these other devices, you probably know it. For the most part, you can just leave it on control pad and be just fine. Now, unfortunately, games that would take advantage of light guns and the Sega Saturn mouse don't currently work on the UWP version of Retroarch on Series X. I have not been able to get any of the mice in my possession to detect on the console yet. Within Retroarch, they work fine for Xbox One games, but not with Retroarch. So, unfortunate. Keyboards work, if you were curious. But yeah, leave this on control pad. If you're going to play games that need the 3D control pad, this is where you do it. Anyway, back to options. So along with the analog stick dead zone configuration, you can configure the trigger sensitivity. And then we could go ahead and skip over the mouse and gun mode since this currently doesn't seem to work. Next up is the CD image cache. So if you have a slower USB device that you're trying to load games off of and you see errors saying that it has slow read times, you could turn this on so it will pre-cache the entire disk image before you start playing. That way you don't have to worry about those slow read speeds anymore. Next up is mid-frame input synchronization. Now this is an interesting one. It will actually decrease controller latency at the expense of more CPU power. I honestly haven't felt the need for it myself. I'm not too susceptible to input latency on a vast majority of things, especially in early 3D games where frame rates are so bad anyway. But if this is a thing that you feel like you want, you could try turning it on. I think the Series X and S processor should handle it just fine. So yeah, not the most demanding scene in Tomb Raider, but it's not impacting performance in any way. But for the most part, I think you'd be safe leaving this one off, only if you're really susceptible to input latency, like that's when you'll really need it. Automatically set RTC on game load, yes, leave this on, otherwise every time you boot a Saturn game, you're having to set the date and time, not fun. BIOS language, pretty self-explanatory, you can change which language you're playing in games that supported multiple different languages. Overscan, this lets you hide out some of the garbage data that could appear on the left and right side of the screen, depending on the game. Scan lines, and then enable horizontal blur. I don't personally care for this one. As you can see, it just really softens up the image. For some reason, I just really love sharp pixels, especially on early 3D games. But if you prefer that blurred look, leave it on. And that pretty much covers it as far as core options are concerned. There's really not a lot for Saturn. It doesn't have any upscaling features yet. It's all reliant on CPU power. It's just, it's pretty nice. It's just straight to the point. Here's the games, play them. Now, just a quick note on multi-disc games. I haven't currently been able to get them to work as a single playlist entry or switch discs while the Sega Saturn emulation is running. I'm going to keep looking into it. I mean, most Saturn games don't actually need to change discs like that. You can actually select the individual discs from the playlist because they have you save, because usually when you open up a Sega Saturn lid, it takes you to the BIOS screen anyway. But I'm going to keep looking into it. If I find a solution, I will let you all know in the comments. The last thing I want to cover for you guys in this video is how to set up a nice CRT shader for when you're playing your Saturn games. From within the quick menu, scroll down to almost the bottom and you'll see a Shaders tab. Press A on this, enable video shaders, and you can start loading up a preset if you have them downloaded. If you don't have shaders downloaded, just press B a couple times to go back out to the main menu. Go to Online Updater, and update GLSL shaders. Press A on this, it'll download it, extract it, and you'll be all set to follow the steps ahead. Back in the quick menu, shaders. So I'm going to load a shader preset for a CRT filter that looks a lot like my old Sony Trinitron. So I'm going to click on shaders GLSL, CRT, and CRT easy mode. Apply changes. And now I'm going to back out. And this makes the game look really, really good to me. I love this shader so much. Of course, there are a ton of other shader presets available if you are interested in checking them out. I just really love this one because it reminds me of the way my Trinitron used to look as I played these games. But there are just so many, so try them out, see which ones you like. Once you have everything set up in the Sega Saturn core to your liking, make sure that you save a core override by going into your quick menu and going to the second to last option here for overrides. Press A and save the core override. Now, if there's a specific setup you like for one game but not another one, you can also save a per game override by pressing A here. This is really useful if you want to have CRT filters on one game but not another, or any other number of configurations for your choosing. Or to have the Saturn 3D controller selected for Panzer Dragoon 2 or other games that support it so you don't have to manually go in and change it. Very useful. But that pretty much covers everything I can think of when it comes to the Sega Saturn core in Retroarch. Games run really well, they look great, especially on higher resolution displays. Well, I mean, they look great for first generation 3D games. I mean, you either love them or you hate them. I personally love them, so well then. But anyway, as always, if you have any questions, let me know in the comments below. I'll do my best to help you out. And if you could do me a huge favor and hit that thumbs up or thumbs down button, depending on how much you liked this video, as well as hitting that sub button so you can see more tutorials just like this one. But that's all for this video, so until next time, all of my wonderful internet people, stay awesome, and we will see you back next video.